We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via Skype online. Each one of you is welcomed to this live streaming. Sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Techniques for intellectual type and the feeling type. Generally, people are of two types. Either they are intellectual or they are feeling oriented. The sutra says, suppose you are gradually being deprived of strength or of knowledge. At the instant of deprivation, transcend. This technique is for intellectual oriented person, intellectual type of person. Then the next sutra, devotion frees. This is for those who are of the feeling type. Tantra says man itself is the disease. It is not that your mind is disturbed, rather your mind is the disturbance. Mind is the disturbance. It is not that you are tense within, rather you are tension or embodiment of tension. You are embodiment of disturbance. Understand the distinction clearly. If the mind is ill, then treatment can be done or illness can be treated. If the mind itself is the illness, then there is no way to cure the illness. Yes, there is one possibility. It can be transcended, but it cannot be treated. And that is the basic difference between the Western psychology and Eastern tantric and yogic psychology. I am talking about Eastern yogic psychology, which is different from the Western psychology. The Western psychology has influenced the Eastern psychology as well, but yogic psychology is totally different. That is the difference between Eastern Tantra and Yoga and Western psychology. It's not that your mind is sick or it is ill. If something is, your hand has a sickness, it can be treated. But when mind itself is sickness, when mind itself is disturbance, then it cannot be cured. The only way out is to transcend it. Western psychology thinks and is based on the premise that mind can be healthy. The mind as it is, it can be treated and helped, because Western thinking does not have the concept of transcendence. There is nothing beyond the mind in Western psychology. Transcendence is possible only if there is something beyond, so that you can live in your present state and move further. But if there is no beyond and the mind is the end, then transcendence is impossible. This is the basic understanding of Western psychology, that there is nothing beyond the mind. There is nothing like transcended. Mind is healthy. Mind can be healthy, and it can be treated and helped. If you think you are just a body, then there is no possibility for you to transcend the body, because who will transcend and where will you transcend? If you are simply body, then you cannot go beyond the body. If you can go beyond the body, that means you are not simply the body but something else as well. That plus becomes the dimension to move into. You are more than the body. Similarly, if you are the mind and nothing else, then there is no way transcendence could be possible. Then we can simply treat individual disease. Someone is mentally ill, we can treat the illness. We will not touch the mind, but we will treat the illness and make the mind normal. And no one will think about whether the normal mind itself is healthy or not. Normal mind, as it is yours, is always skeptical. Freud says that as everyone is, we can only bring a diseased mind to normality. But whether everyone is healthy or not, that question cannot be raised. We take it granted that the collective mind, the average mind, is okay. There is collective mind means sum total of all the minds. So whenever someone goes beyond that average mind, moves somewhere else, he has to be brought back and readjusted. Thus the whole Western psychology has been an effort towards readjustment. Readjustment to the ordinary mind, to the average mind. In this sense, there are thinkers who are very intellectual. They say that genius is a disease because genius is something not normal but abnormal. If normality is health, then anything beyond normality is disease. A genius is not normal. He is in a certain way of mind. His madness may be useful, so we allow him to live. The madman also is abnormal. He is not an average mind. Poets, painters, scientists, mystics, they are all mad. But their madness is allowed for two reasons. Their madness is harmless, or their madness is utilitarian. Through their madness, they contribute something which normal minds cannot contribute. A painter, Van Gogh's paintings, although he was crazy, in a way he was mad, but he has made tremendous contributions. Because they are mad, they have moved to the other extreme, and they can see certain things that normal mind cannot see. So we can allow these madmen, these poets, painters, scientists and mystics, and we can make them win the Nobel Prize. If normality is the criteria and the standard of health, normality is the criteria and the standard of health, then everyone who is not normal is ill. A Van Gogh is ill, a mystic is ill. Geoffrey says that a day will come when we will treat scientists and poets in the same way as we treat madmen. When you look at Albert Einstein, the way he dressed, his entire attire, he looks like a madman. We will make them readjust to the average mind. This attitude is because of the particular hypothesis that mind is the end and there is nothing beyond the mind. You recall I had given you a Sufi story, whereas the king of the particular place dreamt that angel came to him and said, tomorrow, the devil is going to poison all the waters of the estate, of the kingdom, and whosoever will drink that water will become mad. So save as much water as you can. So it happened, all the water of the wells were poisoned, but that of the palace were left because of the security. So entire population became mad. When the entire population became mad and the king was the only sane, so they said, king has gotten mad and we have to treat him because he is saying something which nobody understands. This is the situation. When a master says something, he is not accepted. He is considered as a mad or a fool. Whatsoever the society says, that is considered as sane. So they was looking for the treatment of the king, but they could not find. The king was trying to escape. Then one day a crowd came and they was going to take hold of the king and make him one like him. So he said, wait, give me a time until tomorrow and I will be okay. He went and he drank the water from the other well and he became one like them. And now the public, the crowd was very happy that king is cured. The Western psychology is based on the hypothesis that mind is the end and there is nothing beyond the mind. So they are trying to readjust the mind to the normal way. Just opposite is the attitude, the Eastern approach. We can say that mind itself is the disease. So whether it is normal or abnormal, we will make only the distinction of normally ill and abnormally ill. A normal man is normally ill. He is not so much ill that you can detect it. He is just average, because everyone else is like him, just as all the public, they were behaving in one manner. His illness cannot be detected. The psychologist who treat him is himself a normally ill person. Mind itself a disease for us. Why? Why mind itself is called a disease? We will have to approach it from a different dimension. Only then it will be easy for you to understand. For us, body is death. For the Eastern approach, the body is death. So you cannot create a perfectly healthy body. Otherwise, the body will not die. You can create a certain balance, but the body as such, because it is going to die, is prone to be ill. So health can only be a relative phenomena. The body cannot be perfectly healthy. It cannot be. That is why medical science has no standard and definition of what health is. They can define diseases, but they can define a particular disease, but they cannot define what is health. Or at the most, they can define negatively that when person is not ill, not particularly ill, he is healthy. So in that way, the definition of health can be given. But to define health in a negative way looks absurd, because then disease becomes the primary thing by which you can define health. But health cannot be defined, because really body can never be really healthy. Every moment the body is only in a relative balance, because death is progressing. Slowly and slowly you are moving towards that, because death is progressing with life. The moment you are born, the possibility, the certainty that death will happen will come. Slowly and slowly the energies will start diminishing. You are dying also. You are simply alive, but at the same time you are dying simultaneously. Death and life are two ends far away from each other. Between the life and death, there is a gap of 60, 70 years. They are like two legs simultaneously walking, and they belong to you, like two railway lines. They are running parallel to each other, but they never meet. Like two legs, both help you to walk, and they both belong to you. This very moment you are alive and dying both. Something is dying within you every moment. Within a span of 70 years, death will achieve its goal. Every moment you will go on dying and dying and dying, and then finally you will die. The day you were born, you started dying. The birthday also is a death day. If you are dying continuously, then death is not something which will come from without. Instead, something which is growing within, then body will never really be healthy. How it can be? Because both possibilities exist. The death continues to flow like an undercurrent. When it is dying every moment, how can you be healthy? It can only be relatively healthy. So when I say I am relatively healthy, so if you are normally healthy, it is enough. It is the same with mind. Mind cannot be really healthy, whole, because the very existence of mind is such that it is bound to remain diseased, ill, at ease, tense, anxious, in anxiety. Mind is ill at ease. It is ill, but there is an ease. It is tense, it is anxious, in anxiety. The very nature of the mind is such, so we will have to understand what is its nature. There are three things which you need to understand. First, mind is the link between body and the no mind which is within you. It is a link between material and non-material within you. It is one of the most mysterious bridges. It bridges the two contradictory things, matter and spirit. Mind bridges the matter and spirit. If you can conceive the paradox, usually you make a bridge over a river where both banks are material. In a sense, mind is the bridge between one bank which is material and the other which is non-material. Between the visible and invisible, between the dying and the non-dying, because that which is matter, mind is also matter that dies. Between the life and death, between body and spirit, or whatsoever you call these two banks, because mind bridges such contradictory things. Bridge always connects the contradictory things. It is beyond to remain tense. It cannot be at ease. It is always moving from visible to invisible. When there is a bridge, people can go from one shore to the other and from the other to this shore. You can move from visible to invisible, from invisible to visible. Every moment the mind remains in deep tension, just as bridge, because over the bridge always there are people walking to and fro. It has to bridge two things which cannot be bridged. And that is the tension. That is why the bridge is always full of people. That is the anxiety. You are very moment in anxiety. I am talking about your financial anxiety and other such anxieties. They are boundary anxieties, frame anxieties. That is not the real anxiety. The real anxiety is that of a Buddha. You are also in the anxiety, but you are so much burdened by your day-to-day anxieties that you can never discover your basic anxiety. Once you find your basic anxiety, what is the basic anxiety? To go beyond the mind. The moment you understand, you discover, you find your basic anxiety, you will become religious, not before that. Religion is concerned with basic anxiety. Buddha becomes anxious in many different ways. He was not worried about finance. He was not worried about a beautiful wife or a beautiful husband. He was not worried about anything. There was no worry. Ordinary worries were not there. These are the ordinary worries. He was secure, safe, the son of a great king, the husband of a beautiful wife, and everything was available. The moment he desired anything, he would get it. All that was possible for him. But suddenly anxiety got hold of him. He got anxiety ridden. And that anxiety was the basic anxiety. The financial anxiety is not basic anxiety, it is framed anxiety. A primary anxiety, he saw a dead man being carried and he asked the charioteer what had happened to this man. The driver said, the man is dead. He has died. This was Buddha's first encounter with death. So he asked immediately, is everyone prone to death? And am I also going to die? Look at the question. You may not have asked this question. You may not have asked who has died. Why has he died? Or you might have said that he looks too young for his age to die. Those anxieties are basic anxieties. They are not concerned with you. You may have felt sympathetic. You may have felt sad. But still, that is just on the circumference, or you may have forgotten within a few moments. From my home, when I go to my workplace, there is one route which is shorter, which I always take. On the way, there is a cremation site, a Hindu cremation site. On the way to my workplace, there is a funeral home also, so I have to pass every morning and evening. In the morning, I do not pass in front of the funeral home, but I pass in front of the cremation ground or the cemetery. So this cremation ground I pass morning and in the evening, but the funeral home I only pass in the afternoon. Every time I pass, a thought comes, one day I will be carried, taken to this place. Today I am coming on my own, passing in front of this place on my own. But one day I will be carried home. Buddha turned the whole question towards himself and asked, when he saw a dead man, am I going to die? The charioteer said, I cannot lie to you. Everyone is prone to death. Everyone is going to die. Buddha said, then turn back the charioteer. There were 3 incidents. It is said, though 3 were the past masters. Then he saw a sick man and he saw an old man. Buddha said, then turn back the charioteer. If I am going to die, then what is the use of life? You have created a deep anxiety in me. Unless this anxiety is resolved, I cannot be at ease. This is the kind of a Buddha's anxiety. But your anxiety is that you do not have a house, you do not have a better car, you do not have enough finances. This is framed anxiety. Now you can see the difference. Framed. Buddha is not worried about finance. What is this anxiety? That anxiety has arose. That anxiety has arisen in Buddha. This is basic anxiety. So if you become aware of the very basic situation of life, of body and mind, a subtle anxiety will creep in, and then that anxiety will continue to tremble within you. Whatsoever you are doing or not doing, the anxiety will be there. A deep anguish. The mind is breaching an abyss, an impossible abyss. The body is going to die, and you have something. Maybe call it X within you, that is death. That is deathless. These are the 2 contradictions. If you stand in 2 boats which are moving in opposite directions, then the conflict is bound to happen. That conflict is the conflict of the mind. The mind is between the 2 opposites. That is one thing. This is the first thing that I had spoken. Second thing, mind is a process, not a thing. Mind is not a thing, it is a continuous process. The word mind is a false notion. When we say mind, it appears to be something like a mind within you. There is nothing. Mind is not a thing, instead it is a process. Constantly thoughts are floating. So it is better to call it minding. Not mind. Mind is stationary. Minding is a process. We have a word in Sanskrit known as chit, which means nothing but minding. Mind, we cannot say mind but minding a process. A process can never remain silent. That is why your mind is never silent. It is a process. A process is always tense because it is in a movement. The river is continuously flowing. The air is continuously blowing. A process means a turmoil. And mind is always moving from past to future. The past goes on becoming a burden on it, so it has to move into the future. This constant movement creates another tension within you. If you become too much conscious about it, you may go mad. That is why we are always engaged in something or the other. We do not want to be unoccupied, because the moment you are unoccupied, you have a problem. If you are unoccupied, then you become conscious of the inner process that is going on, the minding, the chitta, and that will give you very strange and peculiar tensions. So everyone wants to be occupied in some way or the other. If there is nothing else to do, you go on reading the same newspaper again and again, because there is no way that you can sit silently. It is difficult, because if you sit silently, you become aware of the totally tense process that is going on within. So everybody is in search of escapes. Alcohol gives you an escape. You become unconscious. Sex can give you that. For a moment you forget yourself completely. Television gives you that. Music can give you that. Anything where you can forget yourself and become occupied so much that for the time being you are as if you are not. This constant escaping from oneself is really because of this process of minding. If you are unoccupied, and unoccupiedness means meditation. If you are totally unoccupied, you will become aware of your inner processes, and mind is the basic process within. That is why so many people come to the Master and say that they have come to meditate, but when they start meditating, they become more tense. And they say that we were not tense as before, and we were not so worried before. Ordinarily, the whole day, we are not so much worried, but when we sit down quietly and start meditating, thoughts rush upon us. They crowd in. That is something new. So they think it is because of the mind. The thoughts are crowding them and creating the problem. That is one of the basic problems that people feel, that meditation creates problems and tensions. Because meditation is a state of being unoccupied. And when you are unoccupied, things will come from all around. And you will feel more tense. It is not because of meditation. Thoughts are crowding. You, every moment of your existence, but you are so occupied outwardly that you cannot be conscious of it. Whenever you sit down, you become conscious. You become conscious of something you have been escaping constantly. Minding is a process, and a process is an effort. Energy is wasted in it, dissipated in it. It is necessary. It is necessary for life. It is part of the struggle for the survival of life. It is the weapon, one of the most violent weapons. That is why man could survive over other animals. Animals are more strong physically, but they lack a subtle weapon of minding. They have dangerous teeth, dangerous nails, and they are more powerful than man. They can instantly kill a man completely, but they lack one weapon, minding. Because of that weapon, man could kill and survive. So mind is the survival measure. It is needed, it is necessary, and it is violent. Mind is violent. It is part of the long violence man has to pass through. It has been built through violence. So whenever you sit down, you will feel the inner violence, thoughts rushing, violent thoughts, turmoils, as if you are going to explode. That is why no one wants to sit silently. Everyone comes and says, give some support. I cannot just sit silently. Give me a name that I can repeat, a zikr that I can do it. Give me a name that I can repeat, then I can be silent. Really, what are you doing? You are creating an occupation. Then you can be silent because mind is still occupied. Now you are focused on the zikr that you are doing, on chanting. The mind is still not unoccupied. Mind is a process, it is bound to be always ill. It cannot be so balanced as silence needs. And the third thing, mind is created from without. When you were born, you just had the capacity for mind, but no mind. Capacity, the capability, but just a possibility, a potentiality. So if a child is brought up without society, without a society, the child will grow. He will have a healthy body, he will have a body, but not the mind, because mind is conditioning. He will not be able to speak any language. He will not be able to think in concepts. He will be like an animal. Society trains your capabilities, your capacity, your actuality, and gives you a mind. That is why a Hindu has a certain mind, a Muslim has a certain mind, but of a different nature. Both are men, but their minds are different. A Christian have a different mind, a Jew has a different mind. These minds are different because different societies have cultivated them with different purposes, different goals. I'll keep it only up to here until we are coming to you live via Facebook stream, via YouTube stream, and also via Skype.